Well, I think the church can do so much, and it's in their place to try and advise politicians and for that. But we also have to recognize that this issue is playing out in most countries. Similar conversations about politicizing or not to politicize. And so it's not something that is unique to Ghana alone, except that we need to find our own remedies to our own problems. So it will stand to reason that for a thing like that to start happening, it has the potential to deviate or to take away attention from the core resolve to
fight this pandemic,
fight or manage the pandemic. So I think that's why reasonable people are concerned. So I think it's in the right direction. That I was actually expecting more organizations to show concern. The Catholic Bishops' Conference, and I don't know for a fact if they have reacted to this. The other,
all these,
Ghana Pentecostal Council and all that, and even the Council of State. Having said that, I when I saw the letter from the Ghana Charismatic and Pentecostal, it just brought my attention to something that used to happen when we were children, in Accra. So, Accra and open fight, boxing fight. The women saw their kinky and other things by the roadside. And every now and then you see children fighting. And you see two boys fighting, and then one will be beating the other one, and nobody says anything.
Everybody's watching.
Everybody is watching and doing their own thing until the other person starts fighting back and beating this one. Oh, so I'm like, but when the first person started, Ghana Charismatic and Pentecostal, didn't you see? You see, in Ghana, if you don't name and shame and use this diplomatic approach, mention them by name.
Isn't that people are afraid of how they'll be attacked and all that?
Yes,
and so they decide to stay back.
Let's come to this. Let's come to terms with how the Ghanaians react to some issues. People will insult you. People will attack you, and so what? You see, the thing is that the way people gauge you or the way you conduct yourself builds into your own reputation. And I'm just saying that if indeed you are dissatisfied or you are not content with how a political actor behaves, just let us know. Don't wait for somebody to respond and then come and say that, don't do what you are doing. Because you know that by this way, they will do it again. And like Salom was saying, on your mass, all of them have done on your mass because it's approaching election season. So if you see, you can't throw a jab and not expect that they will respond. If you throw, so everybody is looking for space, especially media space. So if the ex-president goes and says that, the economy is like ICU, then the ruling party says that, the president says that we shouldn't say anything, so hallelujah, so keep on doing it. It won't happen. It will not happen. I mean, from where I sit, unless they all come to terms with where we are, that this one is not for jokes.
But one of them can be the bigger or the mature one and back off when the other is misbehaving. No, not possible at all.
It's for how long?
I mean, to make it at a point
and I said that for how long?
For a while till we all see that now if you go this way, nobody will really even give you the attention.
So I'm asking, so at whose expense? Okay, so you don't respond and the person keeps going on. You get what I mean? Because It's information. They are trading information, passing information, you know, and it goes at the expense of somebody. So we say, hey, wait a minute, let me set the record straight the way I know it. It's unfortunate, but I have to set the record straight. We don't want to politicize the COVID because it will not augur well for us as a nation. That's a fact. No two ways about that. And therefore, if somebody chooses to do that, they must be stopped. Now, if they are not stopped, then we shouldn't be surprised if the opponent responds. This is how I look at it.
Okay.
But Vivian, again, I ask myself, what then is a reality? Dumsor and COVID-19, none of these two created by anybody. So, for example, Dumsor came. I'm not sure anybody thinks Mahama created Dumsor. I think it's something that had to happen because of our collective lack of adequate investment in the area and a few other things. But how he managed or mismanaged, depending on where you stand, that crisis has become a matter of political debate and something that people didn't believe caused him to lose the election. So how you manage a crisis in our competitive political environment, I think is very political. So, for example, and indeed, there are people who are standing somewhere praying that the COVID-19 will suffer, things will go bad, all projections and efforts by government to tame the outbreak or the disease or to deal with it, you know, in good time should fail, so that government will look bad for the other side to come up and say that's why we did this or we said this. They didn't take it. We even put a team together to assist, but they didn't bother. A whole lot of things. So yes, I perfectly understand why we mustn't politicize this. But again, I ask myself whether it is possible to sit and say that we shouldn't talk politics when we are doing this. Because we are in an election year, election is fast approaching, and because of our nature and how we've dealt with issues in the past. So I think that even though we hope it's not politicized, it will eventually be politicized. In fact, when the government does well and we see the back of COVID-19, whether you like it or not, it will count to the benefit of the government. And indeed, government in campaigning will say that we did it well. And already we've had government appointees or people sympathetic to the government touting or praising the government for the free water thing, the 50% ECG for general people and 100% for lifeline users, etc. These are things which have arisen from the COVID-19. We shouldn't politicize it. It should just be said that way. But because of the kind of politics we practice, which is very unfortunate, now we have people going around on political platforms touting these as achievements of the government. So when you tout these as achievements of the government, I am not sure the other side, seeing that they are losing ground, will keep quiet. They will have to find something and throw it in. I remember, you know, being on social media the night the president announced the free water and that kind of thing. I mean, the comments on Facebook and Twitter, for example, very funny. But I mean, they were trolling, you know, for example, Mahama. That this one there, unless Mahama finds a vaccine to the disease, you know, 4 more years, 4 more for now. These are jokes, but it shows a certain mindset. And when you're a political person on the other side, you also want to think about ways of counteracting, you know, that particular narrative. So I am not even so sure in my mind whether it is a genuine call or an objective call to say that don't politicize it, because it will be politicized, whether you like it or not. It will be politicized. And in fact, we've seen government actors or communicators count as part of government's achievements the recovery rate of people who have suffered from the disease. That really shouldn't be. I saw one of those artworks, government this week, and the recovery rates, etc., and even the number of times Ghana has tested have been touted as achievements of the government. And I ask myself, if you do this, it amounts to politicizing it. So I am not sure how really we should look at it, whether it should be politicized or not, though I sincerely hope that it is not, because if you politicize it, then you are not with one purpose fighting this. I think it is who we have become, very cynical.
Yeah.
And I wonder what we can do about this right now.
Well, but maybe Samet can answer that. He's seen more of this.
No, I actually don't have an answer to this. Only I tend to buy into Selom's way of thinking. You know, how do you not politicize a thing like this? Because you see, it's a development issue.
Yeah.
And so let's look at it this way. What was happening in Nigeria a few weeks back? They were up in arms against their president. And some of them used to say that, why don't you behave like
Ghana's president?
President?
Yeah.
You know, so I think that at the very basic level, it's a political issue. It is a political issue because it can cost you your presidency. Now, if your ability or inability to effectively manage the situation can cost you your presidency, then it's a political issue. And that's why I'm saying that it's okay for Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council to caution, which is okay. But that's all they can do.
Okay.
This thing is going to be in the center of our politics because it has to do with the well-being of the citizens. So, what the politics will test is who does it better. And that's why President Mahama came and said, look, this thing is in ICU. If I look at all the elements of the economy, it looks like something that is on crutches, doing applique, you know. You understand?
Yeah.
You understand? Yeah. So Bawumia also comes and punches back. This thing will go on till we go back to the ballot.
Okay, we'll see how it pans out.
I think the tone has been set, or the stage has been set for election 2020. These are the issues: the economy and the handling of the issue of the pandemic, and you have to do this in comparison with a certain record. And so I think that the issues have been set out for the election. And you know, the pandemic, which is a crisis, it has implications or consequences. It has consequences on the economy, which everything.
Yeah.
So, in essence, this is the message, or this is the campaign we have begun.
Okay.
Well, so leadership effectiveness is being called to question now. You know, how effective you are as a leader in managing crisis.
Yeah.
So we'll take it one day at a time. Yeah.
Let's move to the second case to do with the Ghana Health Service announcing that we have reached our peak. That story has gained a lot of interest. So, Selom, this peak thing, what does this mean to us?
Well, when you look at outbreaks, so outbreaks have what we call a life cycle, maybe. So we have the point of infection, or the source, or however the infection happens. You have a phase where we have the number of infections accelerating, you know, getting to a certain height. So when you get to a place where the rate of infections for within a certain period, maybe daily or weekly or whatever, depending on how you are measuring it, gets to its highest peak, maybe plateaus or flattens, or starts declining or dropping, you know, forming something like a bell, like the bell shape.
Okay.
Then the topmost part of the peak of the curve, where you recorded a lot of infections, before it starts to drop, you will call that the peak of your infections or of the outbreak. So what this means is that, you know, it is how many cases or number of cases means the number of new cases you've had, and the point at which those numbers begin to level off or decline, so that we don't see another spike that will be sharper than what you have done so far. So that essentially is what we call the peak. So normally, if we say that an outbreak has seen its peak, then it means that we've seen the worst of that, you know, all things being equal, or other things being equal, as economists want to say. So essentially, that is what it means. I don't know whether I'm to comment on what I think about.
You think we've reached our peak? Because over the week we've had a bit of argument. Some saying that yes, we have. Some saying we haven't. For example, of course, we've had authorities saying that we've reached a peak, but we've had quite a number of people in the professional space also coming to say, per the data available or what we've seen in the public domain, it doesn't look like we've reached a peak. For example, you spoke to a biostatistician, Dr. Justice Aheto, on Eyewitness. He said, and I'm quoting, that we are still working together in order to get reliable data that can help us estimate the prevalence of the infection and the peak of it. We haven't gotten there yet, so I don't know which data they are speaking to. Something we need to know is the reproductive rate, so we could tell how many people can be infected within a day to enable us to make a forecast on how many people will be affected, recovered, or dead with a specific period. And we don't have this, he claims. Also, the minority today had a presser also speaking to this issue. They feel that government is selling false hope to citizens. That presser was addressed by Haruna, and he said, quote, government should desist from selling false hope of a situation under control and using management of information as a cover for this. And he says that insults the intelligence of Ghanaians. We are at 3,000 and you say we should wait, all is well. All was not well when we were at 200 and 300. How can it be well at 3,000 cases? So quite a number of people don't believe we've peaked yet. Let's bring in some, then you also come and comment on this.
Well, again, here we are. I am not a professional in this business, so my view really is limited to what I hear within the media space. So I must say that one before I start my commentary. So whether we have peaked, we have not peaked, for me, I can't tell. I cannot tell. But, you know, I don't think that the Ghana Health Service is wrong necessarily. I don't think that they are wrong in making that statement. And I also don't have a problem with people who are questioning it, and I'll explain.
Okay.
You see, statistics is a very funny language. When I'm talking about mathematics, statistics, every outcome that you seek will be determined by the nature of the variables that you're dealing with. And so, whatever they know that we don't know may have led them to that conclusion. So that's why I say I agree with them if they say so. Having said that, I can only imagine that their model that they have used looks a bit too simplistic. Okay? And from where I sit, and I have said before that I don't know much, but from where I sit, it looks like the work of an extrapolation. That statistical extrapolation, meaning that you are making a future determination of outcomes or based on historical data or data that you've had. Just that. So, okay, so we sampled X number, which yielded this number of infections. Now, so if the universe of the sample that we have decreases, it stands to reason that we are less likely to have a higher number.
Yeah.
And I think basically that's how they have looked at it. Because if we are to take account of every item, it will be difficult to come to this determination with any statistical model that I know of. It will be very difficult. Normal extrapolation and common sense can take you here, but mathematically it will be difficult to prove.
Okay.
And so those who are questioning it have the right to question it. And for them too, who have come to, because they are doing the work, okay?
Yeah.
And they are saying that, well, based on the nature, look, so up to now, we look at what we call a stochastic process You know, so randomized numbers coming. So today you have 500, tomorrow you have 300.
Another.
So in that manner. But going forward, it looks more like a predetermined kind of numbers that we are going to see in smaller units. So based on that, they can do their own extrapolation and say, okay, we think we have seen the worst. Now, another thing that I believe that people are interpreting it in the wrong way is that when they say that they have peaked, they are talking about with respect to rates of infection, not cumulative numbers. So if we have peaked, it's not the same as we are not going to record any more infections. So people should get that right. Because I heard someone, if we peak, why are we still getting the numbers? All it means is that if we used to get 100 infections a day, it means that we are going to get 80 a day, or 20 a day, or 30 a day. That's all. Which then means that that curve, y-axis, x-axis, that curve at this point will start coming down.
Okay.
On the other hand, if you're just going to do a cumulative curve, it will keep going up till it reaches infinity. So it all depends on how you look at it.
Okay.
I want to believe that they are right.
But the Ghana Health Service.
Yes, in terms of the rate of increase. Now, again, every scientist knows that even in experimental control rooms, they say that within the limits of experimental errors, all things being equal. That's why they always come with a caveat: if we behave properly.
Yeah.
Now, we are saying that this thing is going down, all other things being equal. But if a group of adults decide that they are going to do party at Teshinungwa, or they are going to the beach to misconduct themselves, and it's all over the place, then it will just put everything in disarray.
Yeah.
So I think we can look at it again one day at a time.
Okay. So hold on with your thoughts. I have to take a quick break. When I come, I'll allow you to wrap up on that with your thoughts. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Imagine if you can get all the understanding on some of the difficult subjects you struggle with in school. As a student, do you feel dissatisfied with how hard it is to figure out a subject you're learning? Or as a parent or guardian, do you worry that your child is struggling to understand some of the subjects in school? Well, now you don't need to sign up for extra lessons or tutors. Simply tune in to Class Act, Mondays to Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. on City TV. Class Act is a show that seeks to enable senior high school students gain a much better understanding of what they learn in school. All you need is a TV, a chair, your notebook, and your pen. Get clarity on subjects such as maths, English, IT, and science. Class Act airs every Monday to Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on City TV on DSTV channel 363 and GoTV channel 182. Don't forget your pens, pencils, and your notebooks, and tune in to Class Act, only on City TV.
So welcome back to what the papers are saying. I'm here with Selim Aduonu and Samuel Atamensah. So Selim, let me take your final thoughts on this, then we'll move on to some other.
Yes, I don't think I differ so much from what Atamensah said. Yes, but I will lay, so the confusion, if you like, or the difference in opinion regarding whether we've reached a peak or not. I think Ghana Health Service, they have the data. Obviously, they have more data than they give to us. You may say that they could be more transparent in the figures, etc. And in measuring or determining whether we've reached our peak or not, you look at the rate of infection, etc. And we want to use, in this instance, the rate of new infections or daily infections and see how that plays out, so that in plotting the graph, you see if it follows a certain trajectory. Now, over the past, or since this pandemic began and our recording of it began, a lot of the data we've been given is not being disaggregated in a daily sense is given to us as a ballpark figure of a kind, and you have to try and make sense of it.
So we had one April 15th, the next we're given April 22nd, 26th, 28th, 30th, then we moved to May 2nd, 4th, and then 7th. So like you're saying,
yes,
you can't
and I think a lot of this also is maybe because of how the infection, the samples were taken. So for example, if you're just looking at daily surveillance, general surveillance, where people who present with symptoms go to the hospital or are made to go to the hospital for tests, etc., that you can say, okay, on this day a number of people came, they tested positive, and that kind of thing. It's easier to do. But when you have the enhanced testing thing we did, going to places to take a lot of samples, then bringing about this backlog we've been talking about, it then makes it difficult to make that determination. So I think what they've tried to do at today's press conference was to disaggregate the data so that it follows a certain pattern, like in terms of the days. So when you look at the data they plotted, according to them, on the 25th of April, that's when they had the most infections. And then from that point, it started looking different. So in their view, that is where
we're looking around 513 or so.
So that 513 per day.
For the 25th day you're talking about.
Okay, so in their view, that is how they come to the conclusion that was their peak. And of course, you will never know your peak until you've gone past it, because it's only when you go past it that you will see that, okay, this was the point I had the highest. I think a lot of the dissonance or the confusion or difference in opinion about whether we've reached there or not is blamable on how the information has been given. So, for example, they have more information. A lot of the people, like the barrister who spoke, said he didn't have the data, and so he could make the assumptions on certain principles
based on what you have.
Exactly, and you don't have all the data, so it's likely that you will get it wrong until you have the data that the GHS itself is using to make the determination. It will be difficult because you are playing with two different sets of things. They have the data that they are using, and you don't have it, and you are only using what they throw out there. We all know what they throw out there is way less than what is in there actually. Maybe as time goes on, they should start giving us daily infection rates so that we can also be looking at it ourselves and be making the determination. Generally, that is what I think it is, and we hope really that we've gone past our peak. That brings some relief, though it doesn't mean that we should get complacent and stop all the mitigation
protocols,
and protocols that we've been told to follow.
No, but the protocols we've been told to follow, it appears we are not going by that. And if you listen to the Ghana Health Service, we can see a spike if we don't go by some of these things: social distancing, wearing the masks, washing your hands, and all that. And that brings us to this week, where we saw the communications minister shutting down the MTN office at Dansoma, where you could see customers not practicing the social distancing and all that. With these challenges we're saying, I mean, what does it look like for us?
Well, it's important that we follow the protocols. Like Oponkrumah always says, that there are 3 layers of protection. The first 2 government has done for us. The first 2 being, 1, shutting the borders. Number 2, imposing the restrictions. The third one is what we have to do for ourselves. That's personal hygiene and following or adhering to the protocol, social distancing, hand washing, covering them or wearing the mask and all that. That we have to do for ourselves. Government is trying to do some of it by trying to ensure that everybody wears a mask. But government can't really come and tell you to wash your hands. There's a limit to what government can do. What is important is the education should go further, so people know the importance of all these. Washing your hands, wearing the mask, not going out when you don't have anything to do. It's important. And I think this week's incident with ESLA and MTN, should be should I say an eye-opener, or for a lot of institutions to do what is right. It was unfortunate that it happened that way. And I know people have said many things about ESLA, whether what she did was right or what she did was wrong. I think she had a responsibility. 1, that was her constituency. Number 2, she is a minister of state, and she's part of the government or the executive trying to fight this pandemic. And now when you go to a place and you see that the protocols are being breached.
Yeah.
Of course, the act which the Imposition of Restriction Act tells us what exactly should be done to people who breach it, and that is arrest and prosecution.
Yeah.
In this case, people will say that even what happened or transpired between ESLA and MTN was a lesser of the two evils. Would you want a situation where she will cause the police to arrest and prosecute the management of the center and all the people who were there not observing it, or as the MTN corporate services, like you said, they collaborated with the minister when they had a call from her to close down the place? I think that even though closing down the place is not one of the sanctions of this, it is a lesser of the two evils. Now, let me use this opportunity to deal with this thing about public gatherings. The law is clear. The act, the EI, was clear about what kinds of public gatherings should be suspended. It talked about schools, it talked about funerals, it talked about churches, political rallies, and all those.
Festivals.
And said that certain places, yes, religious activities, sporting events, private parties, nightclubs, etc., all these places were to be closed. And they mentioned funerals. But when it came to funeral, they made a specific case for it. And that was when they said that private funerals could be held, but not with more than 25 people. And so that was specific to funerals or private funerals. So you can't tell me that a group of people have gathered somewhere and you are less than 25, so you are within the law. You are not within the law because that exemption was not made for you. That exemption was made only for private funerals. And we said that it should not be more than 25. And again, another exemption came for certain bodies. You may call them providers of essential services or etc. And for example, we say that a service, manufacturing or industrial workplace, the exempt categories, a market, an establishment in the nature of supermarket, shopping mall, restaurant, etc., security service, essential service, all these are exempted. But it didn't just leave them like that, saying that they are exempted. They said, where there is an exemption under subparagraph 1, there shall be a social distancing maintained between patrons and staff and among staff of the facility or establishment. So you didn't just leave it like that. So if you say that you operate, for example, a service business or a supermarket, so you are you are part of the exempt group,
so you can do
and
whatever.
You just do what you want, you are wrong. So number 2, compliance with enhanced hygiene procedures, including the provision of running water and hand washing soap, alcohol-based sanitizers, and disinfectants. So once you are part of this exempt category, it's now you are not duty bound to provide all these at the place, so that when people come in search of the service you are providing, they are not left exposed. So what happened at the service center was wrong. Number 1, I didn't see the people spaced up properly, observing social distance. Number 2, I didn't see any bucket or anything which shows that they were made to wash their hands, etc. It was wrong. And we didn't even see them in the new addition we didn't see a lot of them wearing masks, etc. So it was totally wrong for that thing to have happened there. So even though the shutting down is not part of the punishment, of course you can talk about the way she did it, the approach or the style, but the end result in my view is great. And all institutions should make sure that they follow the procedures, and not to say that they are part of the exempt category without looking at what the law says, and so they go ahead to do what they want to do.
Okay. I mean, should she have done it any better?
She should do it again. She should do it again. In fact, it reminded me of the roads minister. Amakwata, and the way he's been dealing with people like that, But I think it's just okay, and MTN themselves did not disagree. It's just one outlet that lets go of their guard, and is a lesson to all of us. We should just keep observing the protocols, because the thing is, most of the protocols are against our way of doing things. What we are known. We want large funerals, large outdoors, large parties, things like that. But COVID is telling us there's a new day. Do your funeral, but you can't do it the way you used to do it. And it has come to stay with us. So we better accept it and then move on with our lives.
Okay, let's go to Madagascar. because they have come up with, is it a COVID organic drink or so?
COVID organics.
COVID, yeah, organics. They believe that can cure COVID. They've already pitched to some countries who've ordered and all that. We've spoken to authorities in Ghana whether they'll consider doing that. They are saying it has to go through the process before they do that. But with the WHO and the like saying that you cannot really trust this thing, it has to go through the testing and all that. Let's start with you, Samet. Is this something we should consider ourselves?
No, I mean, it's okay for WHO to play a cautious game in this. I don't have a problem with that, but that's all they can say, because I don't think that Madagascar has their money back in the WHO. There are big boys back in the WHO, and the policy direction of WHO should suit some of these big guys. And yes, it's unfortunate this pandemic how is the way it's structured, but it's somebody's game. Somebody is waiting to make a kill out of it, and so if Madagascar as a country believe that they have, and I think some of them are just playing around words, the thing of managing the situation and curing the thing. Even with the combination of drugs that so far have been used, they never use the word cure. Salomama, right? Nobody uses the word cure. So maybe technically, if they say that no, your drug cannot cure, they may be right. But is it managing the situation well? Provided they have evidence. Provided they have evidence. And they say that they have evidence, so why doubt them? I mean, the fact that you won't use is okay. But Tanzania has ordered, Liberia has ordered, Guinea has ordered, Equatorial Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, and the list is growing, So maybe by the time at the global level they notice that this thing is working, they would have shut half of their population down, and then they'll have to come back to small Madagascar to seek for help. But again, it begs this question of how serious we take our pharmacognosy in African countries, because we are educated to believe that everything, so long as it's coming from the Western world, then that's the legitimate way of doing it. Meanwhile, we know ourselves where we have come from. We have all the herbal preparations available here. They may not have been tested with the same levels of accuracy, we understand, but why don't we invest in them? This is the big question. Because you see, this is where we are. While we think that when there's a vaccine, we will get it first before America.
No.
Oh no, they will deal with themselves first. So what are we doing? And again, we've talked about this on this program. Years of not investing into our own pharmaceutical companies. It's there for all of us to see. Can you imagine if government in, government out had invested in NS Chemist, had invested in Danex, Starwin, who are the other, Tobinco, all these people. Seriously, look, let's build our pharma companies to be able to compete, if not at a global level, at a continental level. Because if you don't do it, the Indians are coming, the Nigeria, the Chinese are coming. I mean, in the last 5 years, you will see an Indian man walking on the street with a briefcase. You open the thing, they have medicine they are selling, they are going around with samples of medicines, and if you want to buy it, they ship it from India straight to you quick. Salespeople. So if we don't build ourselves, somebody will take advantage of us, and that's where we are.
Okay, Salam, you have 1 minute.
Yes, very important point. I think what Africa really should be doing, maybe at the AU level or sub-regional level, is to look at this Madagascar or the COVID organics, take it through some tests and see what really it is. Madagascar themselves say I think last week that they were going to test it. But given how it has
no, but they have tested it.
I think was it this week last week?
This week
the president said they were going to test it. So I don't know that maybe giving it a lab test, etc. I suspect what it does, because it appears to be working for some people. I suspect what it does really, given that it's a combination of herbs and other things, is that it helps to boost your immune system, so that even if the COVID infects you, you recover quickly.
Salom, you are not suggesting that Madagascar doesn't have scientists and medical doctors who know exactly what happens to patients when they use it. I mean, if it was just an immune booster, they would say it. I'm not. You see, I'm not trying to play down your statement. I'm just saying that Madagascar is a sovereign nation. They have scholars like we do. In fact, they have better scholars than we have. All these Westerners jumping up and down, making all those claims. So I'm just saying that the fact that they are an African country, they will never get a hearing. So we as Africans, we should pay attention to it, because it will help us.
Okay, gentlemen. Thank you very much, Salom Adonu, and thank you very much, Samuel Atta-Mensah. We'll be right back with Vivian's View. Stay with us. Thursday, May 7, 2020. What is the status of Ghana in the COVID-19 pandemic fight? Number of persons who have contracted the virus here in Ghana, 3,091. Number of people who have recovered from the disease, 303. Number of people who have died from COVID-19, 18. So the question is, are our figures high? Yes, they are. Should we be worried? Yes, we should be worried. Can we do anything about these figures? Yes, we can. What key measures can we use? Wearing of masks, social distancing, washing of hands with soap and the running water, using alcohol-based sanitizers, and of course, staying at home when going to town is not absolutely necessary. But let's stick to the wearing of masks, because it continues to gain some traction. Also because this week the authorities stepped up efforts to implement its mandatory use in public places. But from the reports we have done, that is City Newsroom, though there's some level of compliance, it's not good enough. And the reasons given by most people who have failed to adhere to this directive include, oh, I forgot to wear it. I don't have one. And the most annoying one is, I don't see the use. Well, let me give you an idea of how its use has helped some countries reduce their infection rate. Now, the Czech Republic, for example, is known to be one of the few countries in Europe to have significantly reduced the spread of the virus. Of course, they were practicing all the other protocols, but the wearing of the mask is believed to have significantly helped in their success story. By law, no one is allowed to be in public without a face mask in that country. Now, other countries that have successfully controlled the incidence rate of COVID infections using the wearing of masks include South Korea, Hong Kong, and Singapore. George Gao, who heads the Center for Disease Control and Prevention in China, believes the mistake countries are making in the fight against the virus is the lack of insistence on the use of face masks. He puts it this way: so when you speak, there are always droplets coming out of your mouth. Many people who have contracted the disease don't show any symptoms. So if they are wearing the face mask, it can protect droplets that carry the virus from escaping and infecting others. So we protect each other if we wear a mask. But how do we get people to wear the mask? We have to, first of all, continue with education on this matter, on the need to wear a face mask. We must also consider some form of sanction if simply turning people away does not work. Now, for persons who cannot afford, that's the vulnerable, we will have to provide them with free face masks, and it must be done now. MMDAs must fast-track efforts in the distribution of masks they have promised to some section of the public. And also, local companies that have been tasked to manufacture the mask must quicken their pace and meet demands. And please, if you can afford to purchase one, please do, and don't wait on government, because after all, you must keep safe under the circumstance. And remember, the gains to chalk in wearing a mask can only be significant if majority of us wear it. So if half of our population wears it, it means we have reduced transmission by half. If, say, almost all of us are wearing it, you do the maths. We are likely to eliminate this virus, while, of course, applying the other protocols. This has been Vivian's View. My name is Vivian Kai Loko. Thank you for watching what the papers are saying. Goodbye.
Good afternoon. This is City FM and City TV. You're welcome to our special COVID-19 coverage. My name is Apnanya Meche Ampedu. Earlier today, there was a press briefing by the Information Minister as well as officials from the Ghana Health Service. They gave an update on Ghana's case count and management, and also the positivity rate that has been a subject of discussion. This afternoon will center on that, the highlights from the press conference and some other issues. So do stay with us. And this afternoon, I'm in the studio with two gentlemen from the City Newsroom, from City FM and City TV, of course. Godfred Akutu-Boafo is the head of Current Affairs, and Bernard Avle, host of the City Breakfast Show and The Point of View. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Nice having you guys in the studio.
Great to be here.
Let's begin, as usual, with the statistics and what we have in Ghana. There was an update on the website of the Ghana Health Service at dawn.
Took us all by surprise.
Yes, we woke up to the alert, the notification that the figures have increased, and we are a little over 3,000. So, Godfred, let's go through the figures quickly.
Okay.
Let's start from the world, and then when we get to Ghana, we can talk about the issues that came up today.
Okay, then I will not. Normally these days I like to avoid the global numbers, and just give you updates on what people are doing globally. And today has been a significant day now in Africa and around the world. And Bernard, you'll understand me in a bit. A lot of important things are happening